you were known, obviously, to have put your hat in the ring with that. I had always wondered, John Perretti came forward and said that he had a secret partner in regards to it. Was that you trying to get a second seat at the table, or did Perretti have somebody else with him?
That was me with Perretti. He reached out to me.
Okay.
God, I don't know who put us together or not, but he reached out to me and said that he had a deal in place to buy the UFC and needed a partner. And I went and met with him a few times, and we came to an arrangement on, what our deal would be internally. And then we went and negotiated the deal with Meyrowitz.
Were you surprised that the Fertittas, you got that at the time?
Well, we had the deal we made was $500,000 to Meyrowitz. We were buying 51% of the company. Meyrowitz was going to keep 49%. And I was putting up an additional $1 million as a loan to the company, which would go to fund their losses while they were still trying to get back on pay-per-view because they had lost their pay-per-view funding. So they were, the only access they had was DirecTV, which was in so few homes at the time, it wasn't much money. So they were trying to get back on cable pay-per-view because John McCain spearheaded an effort to get them removed from cable, called up his buddy who ran one of the major cable companies out of New York or something and got them to take it off, and then everybody followed suit. It's kind of funny. You could buy porn on pay-per-view back then through cable, but God forbid you buy an MMA fight. So we made the deal, and we were in the due diligence stage. I had to put up 200,000 of the 500,000, had to make that available to them immediately because they were doing the show in New Jersey that the commissioner, Larry Hazard, agreed to temporarily sanction one show, if you recall, in New Jersey through the Athletic Commission, and the Nevada Athletic Commission was going to send some reps to watch it. And if it went well, they were going to consider, sanctioning an event. And then everybody, the plan was if it got sanctioned in Nevada, all the other commissions would follow suit. If they got sanctioned by the commissions, they could get back on pay-per-view. So of the $500,000 fee to purchase the company, $200,000 was up front. They needed that money to fund that show. So I paid $200,000 immediately. They used that to do that show in New Jersey. And right after that show, I stopped getting return calls from Meyrowitz's side. His brother was a lawyer in New York who was handling the transaction from his side. And I couldn't get anything from him. I couldn't get anything from Meyrowitz. It's just like they stopped returning my calls. They were playing some games leading up to it with respect to giving me the contracts and, every piece of due diligence that I offered. I'd ask for shit. It would come scribbled on a piece of paper. It was kind of a joke. But right after that show, it went dark. They stopped returning all my calls. So we had a closing date set where I was going to have to put up $1 million. I was going to have to give them the extra $300,000 for the payment. Plus I was going to have to put $1 million in escrow to fund the company over the next 12 months. And I couldn't even get a return call. So I knew something was up. So I started digging around, and I eventually found out that the Fertittas had come in and signed a deal with Bob to buy 100% of the company. I didn't even know who the hell they were at the time. So I started doing some research on them. And then I saw their connections to the Nevada Commission and who they were and how deep their pockets were. And I basically said, well, fuck, I'd rather these guys buy it than me. I just didn't want to go out of business. I wasn't trying to blow this thing up and turn it into $1 billion major sports franchise. I just didn't want to see it go out of business. So shit, I wanted a place for my guys to fight and wanted the company to go on. And I thought, if these guys want to do it and lose a bunch of money out of their pocket and hope that it eventually turns around, great, let them do it. But can I get my $200,000 back? And the answer from Meyrowitz turned out to be no on that. So I ended up having to sue him for that and litigate that for a few years. But I was happy to back off when I saw who was getting involved, because I thought, man, these guys have a much better chance than I would have of making this thing successful. They'd have better access to getting it sanctioned, getting it, put through the commissions, and hopefully getting a TV deal. And that was obviously going to be the key. So it didn't bother me in any way, shape, or form losing the deal. I didn't like getting screwed out of my $200,000.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.